Good evening and welcome to the FITT Show, financial information for today and tomorrow. I'm Bobby Kinzer,
And I'm Thomas Doty.
and we are the FITT Show. Today is Thursday, June the 22nd, 2023. Glad everybody can join us around the country and around the world. Yes, we're back at you with a lot more information, financial information, hoping that it'll improve your life and improve some of the decisions that you need to make in your financial world to help you enter into the mainstream. Like always, we want to remind you, can you please click on the like button and the heart button to give us more traction? It exposes us to more people. Thank you. And put comments in the comment box. That also helps the algorithms tremendously. But we also use that comment box because we like to make this interactive. And that's the way that we can be interactive with you is by you using the comment box. So with that, we got that out the way. Dote, how are you doing today, sir?
Man, just got back from the DR, feeling good and refreshed, and happy to be here.
Well, that's a good thing, man. So what's going on in the DR area? How was the weather?
Weather was absolutely beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
No,
Lovely.
now, how is the COVID thing down there? People wearing masks down there?
No, didn't see any mask at all.
Yeah, people don't wear masks anymore, are they?
Yeah, I don't see many. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
that's for definitely for sure. But last week's show, we talked about what to know about AI, artificial intelligence, and got a lot of remarks about that because a lot of people are curious and as we say, it's going to be changing the world. We get ready to go warp speed into like the outer limits of Star Trek days. But we hope we gave you at least some basic information that can get you started and getting a basic understanding. But this week we're going to be talking about are high prices beating you down? I'm talking about some of these prices so high, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar couldn't shoot a skyhook over them. So we want to talk about the high cost of prices, inflation, and things like that. Before we go any further, though, we want to start at the top of our show with the number one topic when we start off, though. Let's go to the stock market.
Yeah, it's been a real crazy week. The Dow was rolling last week, as you remember, and I think it's had 4 losing days in a row now. The Dow is down almost 500 points, about 1.3%. Nasdaq's not too bad, it's down about 1.1%. But that's a big increase and a big decrease. So it's been a lot going up and going down. Tesla is still rolling, and I think I told you last week Tesla had signed GM. They'd already signed Ford to use their proprietary electric vehicle charging stations. So they're going to make their vehicles so they can work with the Tesla chargers. And that was part of the reason why the stock has been going up. But also, one of the largest EV charging companies, an independent company, has decided they're also going to use Tesla's proprietary charging system. So Tesla's pretty much going to have the market on getting your EV charged up. So you take that into account with all the other things they're doing with the self-driving cars and the car itself. They're doing pretty good. And plus that Cybertruck is supposed to be just a mean machine. It's coming out later this year. So Tesla has continued to ride, but Tesla's up and down. So just if you got Tesla, you got to be able to withstand those big increases and big decreases, because Elon Musk may do something crazy and the stock may fall 30 points. So you just got to hang in there. Apple is still hanging steady around its all-time high. It's up a point. Pfizer still not doing much. It's pretty much flat. And NVIDIA, that's my favorite stock right now. That's the one I bought at about 170, and it's up to 427. So it's still rolling, even though it's been going up and down. So again, you just have to be patient. Things are going to continue to be volatile until we get some sense of normalcy with interest rates, but it doesn't look like that's going to be anytime soon.
Wow, dope. So What, 3 days in a row the market's been down, right?
I think it's four. I think it's four losers in a
4 days now. Wow, wow, very
Yeah.
interesting. But so interesting. Actually, gold is starting to go back up though. They went under $2,000, but now it's starting to go up. It's up about um, 20. What was it? Is it $20 that I saw? And so and remember, gold's supposed to be like an inflation. No, it's not up that much. I'm sorry, it's up only about 70 cents.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an inflation hedge, but it hasn't.
Yeah, but
It really hasn't done that.
Yeah, it hasn't been flowing with that. And also though with the Fed people, they were talking about bonds in this environment is still the preferable choice with them threatening with interest rate hikes again. But we're going to talk about that. But they say bonds is all kind of a safe bet right now. But we're going to talk about more about that in a minute. But let's go to the cryptocurrency.
It's good news, right?
Oh, great news, man. First of all, the total market cap is up 137 billion. That's up about 13%. And normally when you see the total market cap of cryptocurrency go up, so does the individual. Bitcoin is up $4,454 from last week. It went from 25,005 to $30,042 per Bitcoin. That's up 17%. So if you just was in, you would have got that increase of 17%, and that's a good return. Even
that's for a week. You annualize that, that's about 2,000%.
wow, that's why we said it's so speculative, man. And like you're saying, don't put money in it that that you're going to need, or you're going to really need, or put money in it that you can afford to lose. But it's up 17%. That's from week to week. That's a pretty good return right now. Ethereum is up $216 a share. It's up 13%. It's now up to $1,879 per Ethereum, and that's a cryptocurrency. That's smart contract. The Tether is up from 99 cents to $1. Remember, it's pegged to the dollar. And Dogecoin hasn't been doing much of anything, but it's interesting though. Shiba Inu, what they call a meme coin, it went from number 18 back up to number 16. It went from 0.000, that's 506, to 507. I don't know what's going on with Shiba, but that's for a while. It's been going down. One time it was like number 10, but it went from 18 back up to 16. So that's the cryptocurrency market. Like we said, it's so volatile, so speculative. But I tell you what, though, if you got in last week, or if you got in, some time ago when it was like at 19,000, which was per Bitcoin, that happened in 2021. You're doing good. If you held, you're doing real good. So that's the cryptocurrency market. Though, let's get into our subject of today: are high prices beating you down?
Yeah, and Bob, it's I think last week the Fed decided to not raise interest rate. They had 10 consecutive interest rate hikes, and they finally paused. And it's hard to get excited because people are still reeling from the past 10 increases. And you wonder if some companies are really taking advantage of it, because it's really easy to raise your prices in inflationary times because everybody's kind of expects it. And so you just wonder how much of it is legit and how much of it is companies just trying to add to their profit. So overall, inflation fell to 4% in May, and that's the lowest rate in over 2 years. Now, the Fed's target is 2%. And so that leads me to believe that there are probably going to be some rate decreases in the future. If they want to get down to 2%, we're still at 4%. And the biggest, let's call it the biggest villains right now are rent and the cost of used cars. And the funny part, it's inflation's going down, but a lot of it is due to oil. And so, or gas, let's say, and you noticed it at the gas tank, at the gas station. And the scary part about that is gas is so unpredictable that it could go up at any time. If something happens anywhere in the Middle East, or they decide to cut production or whatever reason, that could really light inflation up again. And so that's the part that really has me a little bit worried. And so you just be wary of that. And a lot of people are just really, really fighting through this inflationary situation. If you look at some of the surveys, 2 in 5 people say the rates are forcing them into more debt as opposed to paying off debt. It's forcing people to get more debt. And also 25% of the people say they feel their jobs at risk because companies are laying off because of slowdowns and not being able to invest, and just the fears of a recession are causing people to either cut people, and a lot of people are worried about cutting people. And finally, almost half the people surveyed are upset because they know more increases are coming. So it's going to be crazy for a while. It really is.
That's what's so interesting, though, because inflation over a year ago was about 8.7. I think it even hit 9% at one time.
Right.
So inflation's down, and that's why the Federal Reserve was cautioning whether they were going to increase. But one of the things they're talking about, though, is that Jerome Powell, they hoping that him just talking about that they're going to raise interest rates, that might, cause a slowdown in the economy and keep us away from a recession. So hopefully just him talking about that they're going to raise, because they actually paused and didn't raise last Wednesday. And that was they kind of gave us a signal that he probably wasn't going to do that, though. But they're saying just because he's talking about it, though, it might work, to get people to slow down a little bit. But, it was so interesting, though, that consumers already, check this number out, though, pay around $33 billion in extra interest charges over the next 12 months. Will be paying that much due to the 500 basis points in the rate hikes that were between March of 2022 and May of 2023. And that's from the Wallet Hub. In part due to inflation and high interest rate, total household debt in the first 3 months of the year increased $148 billion to $17 trillion. Would you say, Doug?
That's some serious money.
Yeah, that's why we're talking about today. All these high prices beat you down, man, because these are some serious numbers. And that's why we're having this discussion today, because we want to talk about, the effect of these, these prices, this debt, the interest rate, the economy, so the share of the current debt is becoming delinquent increase for most debt types. So without an increase, the short-term benchmark fund rate target rate remains at 5% to 5.25%. Now, this is the highest since 2006. It is up from zero that started in 2021. So the fast pace of tightening, this is the fastest pace, they said, of tightening since the 80s. So that's why these prices are, going up so fast. Now, the Fed fund rate, which banks lend to each other, is above the consumer inflation rate, which is what some economists said, though, is necessary to slow the economy enough to curb inflation. But some say just the 4% inflation rate that is still, when they pegged at May, that is still twice the goal. So with the anticipation of another rate hike, it can really affect people. So we want to talk about how are these rate hikes, how is this increasing debt, how does it affect you, and what are some of the things that you can do about it?
Well, the first thing is most people probably thinking about, well, will my credit card rate stop going up? And the answer to that is probably not. I mean, the average APR on a new credit card offer is 23.98%.
Good Lord.
And that's the highest in decades. That's just crazy. And they're probably going to creep higher even without that increase in June. There's probably some more rate increases coming. So it's probably going up. So if you're holding a credit card, that 20.92 annual APR is the highest since the Fed start keeping track back in 1994. So since 1994, that's the highest it's been. And it's likely going to get higher whether or not the Fed raises interest rates again. And so the higher rates mean it's going to cost people still more, take a little longer to pay. And we always talk about compounding interest when you deposited money. And the same thing works with credit card debt. When you're paying debt and you're paying these high interest rates, it's hard to catch up. And the goal should always be to pay your credit card off, but these inflationary times are making it really, really difficult. So 0% balance transfer credit cards, they still are a powerful tool to help you against credit card debt. Now, most of them usually charge a transaction fee of 2, 3, 4%, but they give you a period, usually a year, sometimes longer, to have no interest rate. So in effect, you're paying a 4% interest rate to defray or delay paying interest on some other charges. So if you can make use of that, that might help you to get your hands around your situation. And you can also call your credit card company and ask for an interest rate reduction. I mean, all they can say is no, but it's worth a call to see if they can lower your interest rates. And believe me, they're real sensitive to that because they want to get paid. They want to get their money, and they're making money hand over fist off you. If you just sit back and think for a minute about the interest rate that a bank pays and the interest rate that a bank charges, and there's usually a huge gap. So it's worth an effort to try to call and see if you can get a lower rate. More than 3/4 of the cardholders who asked for a lower APR for their credit card in the past year got one. And that's based on a report from LendingTree. So think about that. 3 out of 4 people who called and asked for a lower interest rate got one. The average rate reduction was about 6 points. And that could save you $500 more depending on how much you owe. So think about it.
Wow. That's a big decrease, though.
No kidding. That's huge.
And Doug, and we talked about this before. I just want to share with people that one of the strategies for reducing credit card debt, we've talked about it before, but we want to reiterate this particular strategy. It's called the avalanche method and the snowball method. Now, the avalanche method is where you first pay off the debt with the highest cost, the highest interest rate. That's been a traditional way of doing it. Pay off people, try to pay off the highest interest rate one and the one with the biggest balance. But the snowball method, which they came up with, is first pay off the debt with the lowest balance. And the strategy behind that is a lot of people who's trying to pay off the higher interest rates that may have a higher balances, they might not recognize any reward psychologically of paying it down. So they said the snowball method gives you a sense that you're accomplishing because you can see it. So start paying off the lowest balance first, and usually you can get that off and then start paying whatever you're paying the monthly for that. Then you put it on the next one. So the other one is avalanche, and this particular second one is snowball method. So with that,
hey Bob, and before you go further, I just want to mention I've had a couple of people ask about the show, and the question we usually get is, or I usually get, I don't know how often you get it, Bob, is, why don't you give me a stock tip? Just give me a stock that's going to go up like crazy. And we don't give advice. First of all, that's first and foremost. We are not certified financial planners, so we do not give stock advice. But what we try to do is get you to make money in every transaction that you make, whether it's credit card debt, credit card rewards, where you save your money. We try to educate you on invested money. It's no easy way. This isn't like we're going to give you we got some magic formula for making you rich. It's a combination of everything that adds to your wealth. And that's how Bob and I look at it. We try to maximize every situation or every transaction we make. We try to pay as little as we can and make as much as we can. And sometimes, like one of my buddies, oh, you guys seem like y'all counting pennies. Well, and I probably do. That's who I am. I'm an accountant. But pennies add up. And if you make money on every transaction you make, you're going to increase your wealth. And if you start looking at it over time, or over a long period of time, you'll see the advantage of that. So if you're looking for this magical stock price that you're going to buy at 10 and it's going to go to 10,000, that's not what we're about. We're about you learning about how to handle your finances, understand your financial situation, budgeting, thinking about what investment is best for you and your particular situation, and try to educate you so you can make a good decision when you decide to invest. And we look for all different aspects of your life where you can improve your financial situation. I just had to throw that PSA in, Bob, because a lot of people keep asking me about, well, when are you going to give me the stock tip? And again, I buy stocks, but my situation is not like your situation. I have money that I can put at risk. And if I lose it, I won't have to change my lifestyle. I won't have to sell anything. If Bitcoin goes to zero, that will not have any effect in my life. If NVIDIA goes to zero, it will not have any effect on my life. The majority of my money is handled professionally by Fidelity. That's what I live on. The money I invest in stocks is money that I invest in, and I can afford. I don't want it to lose it. And I don't think I can afford to lose it, but it won't change my life if it goes down. So I can't recommend you do what I do because, again, I don't know what your situation is. What I do works for me, and we're trying to get you to understand more so you can figure out what works best for you. So I hope I didn't go off on a tangent, Bob, but I just had to make
that's good because I've had questions like that too, though. People asking me for when are we going to give stock tips? And like I always say, we're not financial advisors. We are financial educators. And we just provide you information that you can make the best decisions with. That is our goal, to provide you with the information where you can make the best decision for you. Now, when we use and show in the stock market at the top of the show, we're just using some of Dote's stocks that he had. We're not recommending that you invest in them. We're just showing you his portfolio so you can see how the movement works and could tell by the different sectors how they were moving. So I just wanted to add that into it there, Dote. So I want to talk about how does this affect how does it affect these high costs, interest rates going up? How does it affect people's plans who are planning to buy a house? Now, homeowners with existing fixed rates mortgage won't see any changes. Now, the recent and prospective home buyers are feeling higher interest rates, but notably, mortgage rates have been volatile. The average rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage reported by Freddie Mac has fallen as low as 6.09% in February and climbed as high as 6.79% in early June. Now, the Fed influences, but doesn't directly set mortgage rates. I talked that to you at the beginning. It's the rate that banks lend to each other, and eventually down the line, those rates affects some of the home loan costs, and it may not decrease with a pause in interest rate hikes. Other factors like housing demand and economic outlook also affect mortgage rates. Now, given how steep rates are and how persistently high home prices have remained in many parts of the country, because even in my area in Prince George's County, Maryland, the prices have been going up. My price of my home, though, has went up within the last year from $500,000 to $666,000 just in my neighborhood. And it's likely to stay, but the rates are likely to stay low, you know, until the rates and home prices show more significant and sustained declines. Now, it's important to note that while mortgage rates may not rise significantly, they're still relatively steep. Now, the national average, though, check this out, of monthly payment on a new mortgage, the average is $2,317 according to the Lending Tree data. Now, for a $350,000 loan at the June 1st rate of 6.79, borrowers would pay about $2,279 a month. Now, that's an extra $381 a month and an extra $4,572 a year. And check this out, though, and an extra $173,000, $173,160 over the 30-year lifetime of the loan, compared to a year ago when rates were just 1.7% lower. That's how high the cost of housing could be in your 30-year lifetime payment could be over $100,000 extra just because of that 1% increase.
Well, okay, let's talk about auto loans. That's another one that's been going up like crazy. And it was really interesting because during the pandemic, you had all kind of supply chain issues, which were causing prices to go up, and people couldn't get new cars, so prices on used cars were going up like crazy. But right now, interest rates are what's hammering or hampering vehicle sales now. And so the average APR on a newly financed vehicle is up to 7%, and it was 4.4% a year earlier. And if you think back a little further, everybody had 0 or 1.9% interest rate. So that's a considerable increase in the cost to buy a car. And that's the highest it's been since 2008, which is crazy. So the average monthly payment for a new vehicle hit $730, up from $656 a year earlier. And a record high of 17% of consumers financed a new vehicle with a monthly payment of $1,000 or more.
Wow.
Just say that, $1,000 car payment. Wow, I hope it's a nice one. So some car shoppers are just paying higher down payments. The average down payment for new vehicles has climbed to $6,950. That's a big down payment. And it's funny because we've talked about this before. As soon as you drive a car off the lot, the value drops probably 20%. And what's also happening, you see a lot of people taking longer loans. A record low of 12.3% of consumers opted for 36 or 48 months. And so that means the other 87 almost percent are extending loans from 5, 6, 7 years.
Wow.
Crazy, a 7-year loan for a car. And this is one of those things when you think about how hard it is to get ahead. And that's what's crazy about this whole thing about getting ahead. Getting ahead is really, really hard. But once you get ahead, everything in this US system is built to help you stay ahead. So that's why I strongly encourage my kids starting out to kind of be on the low end of things. Don't go out there and buy a new car. Buy a slightly used car at a much lower price. And the key is to get to the point where you are ahead and life becomes so much easier. It's like when I first got out of college and couldn't get a credit card, and nobody would give me a credit card. But once you get established, everybody wants to give you a credit card. So I think vehicles, as much as I love cars, that can be the biggest waste of money because they don't appreciate. As soon as you buy it, it drops in value. And in 10 to 12 years, it's just going to be a hunk of steel. So if you're thinking about buying a new car, if you can't afford it, consider something used. Don't look at the top of the line because you'll end up buying. It's hard to look at the top of the line and go back, but just be smart. Don't overextend yourself on a car, on something that's not appreciating.
Hey, Dope, you know what the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl, Doug
Doug
Williams, said?
Williams.
He said, if you could afford a Rolls Royce, buy a Cadillac.
That's for sure.
I'm like, Doug was pretty profound there.
Yeah.
So, Doug, how will a pause in interest rate hikes affect the stock market? I mean, I think everybody likes to know that. And the dual fear of high inflation and recession, or as they call stagflation, not moving, but the high inflation versus recession has kept stocks under wraps until lately. Now, the benchmark broad market Standard & Poor's index, right, and the tech heavy, because a lot of people got tech stocks, and that's the NASDAQ, each rallied to the highest level since April 2022, before this week. On the signs of inflation cooling enough, the Fed will pause the rates. That's one of the reasons why they paused. They feel that, inflation was cooling, but still they feel it's not there at 2 to 2%. The higher rates make borrowing and business investments more expensive, and they cool consumer spending, which cuts into the corporate profits. So some investors are optimistic because recent corporate earnings have not been as bad as predicted. So companies' profits could expand again once the Fed stops raising the rates. Because when they raise the rates, what it does, it affects the corporate, it affects their investment potential. That's, affects the money that they can use in R&D, research and development. So now, overall, this could be short-term relief and a positive for the stocks, but you have to factor in so many other things, like the economic growth, trade. We still are, fighting with China, on trade costs, and then you got earnings, because every company, that's what they look at. They look at their earnings, and that's what they base their dividends on. That's what they was based on, their appreciation of their stock. So, there's so many uncertainties there. Now, whether the Fed is finished raising rates or they're just taking a break, still lurking, not all sectors may benefit equally. So investors should remain cautious of interest rate sensitive sectors like real estate and utilities. But the key is to be diversified. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's the key.
Yeah, let's talk about how it's affecting bank savings rates. And for savers, yields have been getting a little bit better. And the rates have risen for savings accounts and one-year CDs. They're the highest they've been in the last decade. But the gains are slowing down. They always, the savings rate go up at a much slower pace than the interest charges go up. It's funny how that works. And right now, consumers have several options to earn over 5% on their cash. And so if you have your money that you don't use in a checking account, which you're probably making no money, or a low yield savings account, which you're probably paying less than 1%, you should look into putting it in some kind of savings account or a money market account up around 5%. I mean, you figure if you got $10,000, okay, and you're getting zero when you can be getting 5%, that's a nice little, that's $500 a year you could be making, okay? So with inflation being like it is, it behooves you to make as much as you can on your idle cash. Make sure you are making as much money as you can on your idle cash, because you need to have money set aside for emergencies and stuff. Make sure you're making as much as you can. So several money market funds now paying over 5%, and that's higher than the average online savings account of about 4%. And the average one-year CD is about 4.86. But money market funds, those online money market funds and online banks, they're up around 5%. And so they're forcing banks to try to match that. And so you have to look at other options other than brick and mortar because they're moving higher, but they're moving at a snail's pace. And they aren't in any hurry because it's like one of those things that it's just very, very hard, very, very difficult for people to change bank accounts. And banks know that. And so they are very, very slow to raise interest rates. So sometimes you might have to go through that of changing banks, looking at an online bank or any place that you can get. You need to make sure you're maximizing how much money you're getting on your cash because typically it's not at a brick and mortar bank, even though it's convenient.
And just remember, if you do get an online bank, make sure it's insured by the FDIC. Make sure it has that label there that is insured. Now, Doe had a question about money markets versus savings accounts. Now, every bank doesn't have money markets. A lot of financial institutions like Vanguard, Fidelity, they have money markets. And money markets are what they call cash equivalents. And so they give in a little higher rate. And because they're money markets, they are a lower risk rate than stocks and bonds. But some banks do have money markets and they insure money markets. So just make sure you know the difference between savings accounts, money markets, online banks being insured by the FDIC. Hey, Doug, I want to switch gears for a minute. I mean, it's still in the same conversation territory, but I want to talk about how much more is eating out actually costing you, because I don't think people realize. I think they have an idea, but I want to give some statistics, hardcore facts about how much is eating out actually costing. They say by the end of 2021, the cost of eating out was rising faster than any time since 1982, though. And the restaurants have only gotten more expensive since then. In the most recent consumer price index, which is one of the benchmarks for determining how the economy is doing, the index for food away from home rose 8.3% over the last year. Full service meals cost 8.2% more than 12 months ago, and the index for limiting service meals rose by 6.6%. Now, those numbers seem to validate that what just might be the most commonly cited piece of personal financial advice you hear, and we've said this though, prepare your meals at home instead of eating out. Considering that millions are struggling just to buy food at the grocery store, much less to eat out at restaurants, it's advised that it's getting harder to ignore.
Well, Bob, this is right up my alley because being an accountant, what's the real cost of eating out? And so if you think about it, you should only have to pay about $5 a meal.
Right.
And so if you get it from a restaurant, it's usually triple that. And if you eat out once a week, that's what you pay. And sometimes it's the least expensive meals away from home that do the most long-term damage. In theory, fast food is cheap. That's its whole premise. However, that mindset is incorrect because if we have a predisposition to believe that fast food is not costing a lot, then we buy it more just because
Right.
we think it's cheap.
Right.
Okay? And then it adds up quickly and becomes a lot more expensive than eating in a restaurant once a week. And it's funny because when I, back when the kids were little, there are restaurants that would charge like real high prices, but not be much different than fast food. So it's think about how much you're spending eating out, and it is room to pause.
So why is restaurant food so expensive? So we're going to now everybody know that it costs more to eat out than eating in. But have they ever put some numbers to it? And we're going to put some numbers to it so that you can really see it right in front of your face. So according to the point of sale company B&G, the food industry follows a standard cost to menu price formula of 28 to 34%. That means restaurants charge at least double often much more for any given item on the menu. Now, the markup from wholesale is typically, check this out, 300%. I mean, that's that's crazy. That's crazy. And I'm going to show you these numbers so you can see these numbers. Check this out. Check this out. So, what it costs a restaurant to make a hamburger, right? It costs actually $1.05 for the beef, 52 cents for the bun, 7 cents for the tomato, 12 cents for the lettuce, 1 cent for the onion, 2 cents for ketchup, 3 cents for mustard, and 4 cents for mayonnaise. So the total cost production is $1.86. $1.86. But a burger costs $9 on the average menu. That means the typical burger has a markup of 384%, though. That is, I never saw it broke down like this. When I looked at this, I'm like, oh, we got to share this, man. That is freaking incredible, man, what individuals are paying. So, that cost, that 384%, guess what that is, though? Thanks to the cost. That cost is for labor, goods sold, marketing, and advertising, real estate occupancy, maintenance and repairs, insurance, and daily administrative costs. That kind of markup is necessary for restaurants to turn a profit. That's why a lot of these restaurants be closing, dope. That's why it costs so much to go out to eat.
Crazy. And the thing is that they kill you with upselling. It's funny. And this is partly because I'm cheap, but also I like to think it's mostly because I'm health conscious. But when I would take my total family out, there were 6 of us, and we would never order drinks, and Cokes or Pepsis or whatever. And in my mind, I'm thinking that's $12 right there, $2 a head for something that's really not good for you. So we never bought drinks when we went out. And it would just be kind of funny when the waiter would go around there. What would you like? Water. And I felt so cheap. But again, I like to think in the back of my mind, I was thinking about all the sugar that was in soda, but that's probably not true. But they always try to hit you with the extra cheese, or they get you to go to the platter or the extra value meal.
How much do that extra cheese cost, though?
It's a couple bucks, and or the drinks or the fries or the platters. It always costs more. Like from McDonald's to the expensive steakhouses, they all upsell, and the staff they're trained to upsell. They suggest larger portions. They try to get you to get appetizers. They try to get you to get dessert. They suggest their favorite items, which typically cost more. And especially when you get a couple drinks in, you get a lot more likely to just to spend and to buy and not think about how much you're spending. And if you don't have somebody cheap like me around, then you can go crazy at a dinner. And then you add to it, when you pay extra for the meal, that's how much more the tips cost. That's how much more the taxes are. So it just keeps adding up. So they always say, can I start you off with a drink? And that usually gets you going. And just be cognizant of that when you sit down. I would bet that most people who order appetizer don't eat the entire meal. So you end up throwing that away. If you're smart, you have them cut it and pack it up and you take it with you. But I've seen it more often than not where people order appetizer and then just do not eat their dinner and end up throwing it away, which means it ends up being just a waste of money. And so just, again, this is just another part of your life where you can spend less money and take that money and put it to better use paying off debt, investing it, or doing something you really enjoy other than spending it on food.
So, though, another place that is beating people down with the high prices, high costs, is no question the grocery store. Those prices, reflecting inflation tremendously. So, we want to take a round of how to optimize your grocery shopping. So, I'll go first, though. Check your shopping aspirations. Now, this is pretty interesting. You are what you eat. If you are what you eat, we're certainly eating and shopping to satisfy our aspirations too. I'm one of those people. I get in there and see some M&Ms with peanuts, and then I want to get some barbecue Utz waffles. But we all spent too much time watching food TV and the pleasing fridge restock videos on, and it's hard not to, let your aspirational energy affect you at the grocery store. Now, whether you aspire to lose weight, eat more leafy greens, or simply be the kind of person who has a well-stocked salsa selection, it's important to realize that if those aspirational purchases are not in line with your actual needs and values, it could lead you into spending way more money, and definitely less. Even if you're eating healthy, you could end up spending more money than you need.
Yeah, another thing you can do is ask to break up the package. A lot of times you'll see a package, it may have 6 breasts and you only want 3. There's nothing wrong with asking them to break it up so you don't buy 6 and end up wasting 3. There's nothing at all wrong with doing that. Just say, hey, can you break that down for me? So because I only want X amount. And so consider doing that.
That's a good one, though. That's a good one. How about this one? Memorize your store's sales cycles. Yes, you all, there are sales cycles. As you expect, grocery stores operate on a pretty regular sales cycle. Now, you can go and check this out on businessinsider.com. Grocery sales happen in predictable cycles. Here's how to take advantage. You can go out there and Google that. No, you put that in, that's a direct site, excuse me. And they typically last 6 to 8 weeks and are often seasonal or holiday specific. It really pays to know when to expect major markdowns at your favorite stores. So Wednesdays are one of the best days to shop for grocery deals, since new sales advertisements go out on Wednesday. But also, some grocery stores honor the previous week's sales, meaning you can pick up 2 weeks worth of sales in the same week. How many people knew that, though? The same is true on Sunday's newspaper ads. So be sure to hit the grocery store after the weekend brunch.
Yeah, and another thing you can be smart doing is buying the loss leaders. Now, what's a loss leader? Let's look at Costco and their rotisserie chicken. I think it's still $5.99, and they actually lose money on that item. So that's where the term loss leader comes. But they know when people come to the store to buy that rotisserie chicken, they're going to buy other things that go along with that, and they kind of jack the prices up on those items. So stock up on those loss leaders and avoid those things that are costly that might go along with the loss leaders. And that's where you having a grocery list and being very disciplined about what it is you're buying from the particular store, because every store has a different loss leader. Some it might be a potato chips, and they want you to buy, I'm sorry, not potato chips, but pop. And they want you to buy the potato chips and pretzels that go along with it. And that stuff won't be on sale. And so they're very smart the way they market these things. And they'll put expensive things around the loss leaders, hoping you'll pick those up. Or in the case of Costco, you got to go all the way through the store to the back of the store to get to that rotisserie chicken that's $5.99. And they're betting that you're going to pick up other things on the way.
Yeah, yeah. Though this is that's a pretty good one. I didn't even know about that one. Next one is skip single-use ingredients. Let me explain what that is. Those box cake mixes, flavored yogurts, prepackaged rice mixes are convenient, but you're paying for it. Since these items have straightforward, limited uses, you're not going to use a strawberry Greek yogurt for topping tacos like you would with plain. They leave little options for improvisation come mealtime, opting for more open-ended ingredients like all-purpose flours, rice, plain yogurts, plain cream cheese, makes creating new and exciting meals way easier. That's not to say you need to enjoy them plain. Add a swirl of jam into yogurt, or try a new homemade cake recipe, or even make a lime zest cream for topping the batches of the tacos. So it's called single use ingredients, which is all packaged in one, and you got to use all that.
And we talked about how tricky grocery stores are. We suggest you wear headphones because a lot of them type in music to make you more relaxed, which puts you in a better mood to spend money. So again, you really have to be purposeful when you go to the grocery store. That's why it's important to have a list so you aren't just wandering about buying things because you're feeling good or you're in a good mood or because you're hungry. And again, they pipe in music and they set the mood up in grocery stores to get you to spend money. So you got to be ready to fight those things trying to get you to spend more of your hard-earned money.
No, you telling me music?
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Everything in the store is set up, man, to get $1 out your pocket. And I
They're
would
trying
never
to make
thought
their
about
money.
that. I would never thought about that. The music, God, that's deep. Now, next one is face your, and I'm gonna get some pushback on this though. Face your sell by date fears. Now, my wife Tiffany definitely looks at the sell by dates, and according to Benjamin Law, the author of The Secret Life of Groceries, consumers can save just by being more flexible with the sell by dates and the short coded items like bread, milk, and eggs. After all, sell by dates are mere guidelines. They aren't technically regulated and they don't magically turn inedible or risky on the best buy dates. Now, chucking food out based on the sell by dates rather than actually freshness also puts a costly burden on supply chains that then affect prices.
And Bob, there've been that's not really a regulated item because a lot of times the sell by date doesn't mean it's going bad. It just means that's the date they need to sell it by. But you still got to use your own discretion. I mean, if it smells bad, it probably is bad. There's other telltale signs that might tell you something is no good. But in all these little tips we're giving you, we don't ever want you to get to the point where you don't buy yourself a treat. Because if you try to be too Spartan, then you'll end up not sticking to whatever it is you're trying to do. Okay. So always treat yourself. Just do it in moderation and be reasonable. Try to save money on a lot of things so you have extra money to spend on those special little treats. And that's kind of something I've always lived by. I try to save money on stuff that I don't really care about so I can spend money on stuff that I do really care about. But always treat yourself.
That's what Kitty just put up there. She said it's Men's Health Month in June. Treat yourself to a healthy snack. So, how about this one? How about just skip the grocery store altogether? Now, the winding aisles of grocery store have a way of giving us into serious option fatigue. Now, that's interesting, option fatigue. But thanks to online grocers, you can skip the brick and mortar store altogether. Means you can avoid those impulsive purchases and help save the earth in the process. We love an overachieving moment.
The only thing I'm leery of is when you shop yourself, because I do look at sell by dates now. And I think when you have the store shops for you, I think they always give you the oldest stuff first. I think that's probably their protocol, is to give you the oldest stuff. Of course, when I shop, I look for the newest stuff. I always buy the fresh shrimp at Costco, and I always look for the latest date. And I'm sure if you were to order that with a shopper, they would pick the oldest date. So just be leery of that. And finally, don't be afraid to return items. If you get something that you don't want, that you're not going to use, take it back and get your money back. Most stores will take stuff back and they won't care. So again, we always talk about little ways to not waste money. And believe it or not, most of this stuff I do. And it's added up over the years. I'm not saying that's why I've gotten to where I am, but it actually helps. I hate throwing money away. So don't be afraid to return stuff.
So, as always, we talked about a lot of things in this show. We had about 20 pounds of knowledge in a 10-pound bag. So let's go to the summary and the takeaways to bring all of this home and for people to think about. All right. We talked about earlier, the economy, inflation, and interest rates going up. Rate increases are not done. So don't think that the cooling off period that the Federal Reserve didn't raise the rates last week, they are going to raise them again. It's going to make things tight. You're going to tighten up your belt buckle. And so make sure you account for every penny you spend. That's how we beat the economy. We just try to be smarter and shop, buy, and eat smarter.
Yeah, manage your debt. And I know it's hard if you're in debt and everything's getting more expensive, but try to find ways to pay it off faster. And more importantly, stop going in debt for things that you don't really need.
Next, maximize your savings. Like Doak talked about, the interest rate now at banks, the savings accounts are going up, the money market rates are going up. They are the lowest risk vehicles out there, investment vehicles out there. So make sure you maximize your savings just to have it sitting there, especially if they're given higher interest rates and you're not having to take the risk like you would have to take with bonds or with stocks or mutual funds. So go online, especially the banks that do not have brick and mortar. That's why they can give higher interest rates online, but make sure it has the seal of the FDIC in the window. And if you're in the credit unions, make sure it had the credit union symbol, the NTEU.
And next, eating out can be a lot more costlier than you think. And it's really kind of crazy because we didn't even touch on the health aspect of it. And typically, restaurant food is the reason it tastes so good, because it's usually full of all the things that are bad for you: fat, sodium, and sugar. So you probably do yourself a favor physically by eating in and eating fresher and more natural foods than you will by eating out. But eating out is extremely costly, especially given this inflation we've had over the last couple of years.
Though it brings me to Jack Lane, remember the great fitness guy, and he used to say, if you can't pick it up, you shouldn't eat it. Meaning, if you can't lift a cow, you shouldn't eat it. If you can't lift a pig, don't eat it. But no, that's true. That was one of his sayings. The last one, you all, is shop effectively. We gave you a lot of tips there, and there's even more out there. But the key is be efficient with your shopping, because they're trying to get every extra dollar out of your pocket. Like we say, from putting the stuff they couldn't sell up front to where you walk in the store. They're even playing the music. So take heed, be smart, and we hope that this show gave you a lot of information to understand. We gave a lot, but thank you all for tuning in this week. And as always, good show, Dope. Thank you as always for your great information.
Thank you, good brother.
So, as we always do, let's do roll call for all you people out there checking us out. A lot of people out there today. Linda Sy, my sister, Linda Kinzer Sy, Joanne Skinner. Now, what's up now, Dodie? Always great. Now says another great show. Thank you now. Rodney Madison, thenoteexperience.com. Check them out for as another alternative for investing into holding mortgage notes. My sister Nolia Kinzer Milton, always love you, dear. Garnett, stalwart, always there by our side. Thank you, Garnett. And Kitty, thank you for your wonderful comments as you always give, Kitty. Thank you very much. Thank you for hanging in there. And James Alexander, we thank you, sir, for tuning in.
Jimmy, hey.
Yeah, so next week, though, will be, what's next week? What is next week? The 29th, right. So we'll be here, 8 o'clock, the FITT Show, Eastern Daylight Time. And if y'all have any comments or want some particular topics you'd like for us to talk about, please put it in the comment box. And make sure you share this with your family and your friends on Facebook Live and on YouTube. Thank you on behalf of Thomas Doty and Bobby Kinzer. We really appreciate you. Knowledge is power.